Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Bison Video Blog. Missouri Valley Conference play opens this Saturday for North Dakota State as the Bison welcome old friend Illinois State to the Fargodome for the first time since 2013. Famously, we know the Redbirds had been off the schedule, Jeffrey, for the last 2 years. Of course, we know they met for the championship game to end the 2014 season. The Bison coming off a bye week. We'll talk about the unbelievable success this program has had, but some news of note to start here after Chris Kleiman's press conference. A couple of interesting tidbits. First off is noted wide receiver Marquise Bridges out of De La Salle High School in the Twin Cities moving from wide receiver, and he's going to play quarterback and likely will see the field this weekend.
Interesting move, isn't it? Here's the thing about NDSU football, and we see it every year over and over, that when this team has to make a move, okay, they're 3-0, right? You're 3-0 and you're thinking everything's gravy and good. You beat Iowa. And in the off week, what do? They make a move. They don't mess around.
No.
I mean, if there's a need at cornerback, they go to receiver who is probably a third or fourth on the depth chart, say, hey, Marquise, if you really want to see the field, maybe here's a better chance.
Right.
And they made the move. They don't mess around. It goes to show you that there's no resting on the laurels, I guess.
And now Bridges to get thrown into the fire against an Illinois State team that can throw the football. We'll talk about that in a second. He played a little bit of corner. Chris Kleiman told me that during the press conference. We all saw his tape as a wide receiver and thought maybe his best path to the field was that way, and clearly that wasn't going to happen. It's curious to me what other guys maybe weren't panning out to have him go over there and say, and he's got a chance to play right away, too.
Well, as best we can tell, is they moved Don Davis more inside to a nickel back, and what I mean by nickel back is somebody more in passing situations, and you're seeing a lot of 4 or 5 receiver sets, so maybe you want a little more athletic guy in that particular position. Is Quentin McCoy at the other corner, backup, not doing the job? Probably evidently not to this point. We don't know that for sure, but to move Marquise, and he's almost close to seeing the field already after 2 weeks, which was really kind of bizarre.
That did strike me as well. The other news of note is starting fullback Brock Robbins, the pride of Cavalier, North Dakota, broke his foot. He's going to be out 6 weeks, which opens a spot. Robbins, I thought, was coming along. His play, I thought, it got better as the season had gone along here through the first 3 games. And now you're into a spot where I don't know who you're going to have. Garrett Malmstrom is listed right now as the starting fullback, but NDSU has some interesting options of who they want to plug in there. That's a hugely important
spot.
He's
actually listed as backup. They do have Chase Morlock as a starting fullback, but Chase is 223 pounds, and I think in that spot you want the body, the guys that can move bodies. Like Jedry Sear was at 235.
Grothman was that way.
And Grothman was 240. So the road graders, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I don't know if Chase is a road grader more of a multi-dimensional back.
That's curious to see who's going to fill that role come. And they've got plenty of tight ends, too, that they can maybe put in that spot.
That's what they
said.
That
aren't seeing the field right now. But they're all
you
big
can't
dudes,
dismiss.
though.
You can't dismiss this as saying, oh, it's just the fullback spot.
Right. I'm
it's
not
just like the
that,
center. No. You just can't say because Kuhnert's out for 2 weeks that this guy will fill in. And he apparently did okay. But obviously Kuhner
was a major impact
against Iowa, especially. So the fullback, I know they don't get the ball, and it's a non-glorious position, but you just can't dismiss it.
And this offense is just a major factor in how NDSU has been able to move the ball.
It's power football.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Now, on the opposite side of the ball, there's a huge, obviously, hole with Nick DeLuca being done for the season. Matt Plank now steps into that role at linebacker. There's no replacing what number 49 can do. But Plank, when he came in against Charleston Southern, I thought he did very well as the game gone along. What's the biggest thing in your mind for him to adjust now facing Illinois State?
He's a physical guy. I think he's big enough, and we saw the tackle there against Charleston Southern, played pretty well in that position inside. I think the biggest thing for him, and here's what DeLuca was good at, in the Tampa 2 defense, you need your linebackers, and especially your middle, to get a deep drop on passing situations. A guy who can get back there and use his quickness. And that's how DeLuca did the big interception against Eastern Washington. He took a nice big drop. I don't know if Plank can do that. We haven't seen enough of him if he's quick enough to make that kind of a drop.
He certainly is learning enough. This is his 4th year in the program, so he's been around, obviously, for quite a long time. And we visited with him a few weeks ago when DeLuca originally got hurt. And he was looking at his job saying, this is my time. I've been studying up for it. I'm ready to go. And obviously, DeLuca came and played the next 2 games. But I'm really curious to see how he faces an Illinois State team. So we'll transition now to talk about the Redbirds. That is just a head-scratcher right now. They come in 2-2. You thought maybe I don't know if it was the apex of their season when they go on the road and beat Northwestern on a last-second field goal. And here it is from a few weeks ago in Evanston. And where does that sound familiar? Last-second field goal to beat a Big Ten team. But then, Jeff, they lose at home to Eastern Illinois. They had an unbelievable home regular season win streak going. And then a real head-scratcher, they lost at Indiana State on Saturday. So I'm not sure what kind of team we're going to see coming into Fargo on Saturday.
Amazing, isn't it? And we're just looking at this video here, and when you win in Chicago like they did, it's for Brock Spack to win in his Big Ten
in the
stopping
backyard,
grounds
right?
It's a big deal. Eastern Illinois, Ohio Valley team, good but not great. You should certainly beat them at home. I look at their quarterback. I mean, you have Trey Roberson, who was so good at multidimensional, probably a better runner than passer, of course. But Jake Colby is averaging 1.6 yards per carry.
Yeah.
That's certainly anti-Trey Roberson-esque, if you will. Running back Morari,
Yeah.
6.9 yards a carry, and that's certainly more of a Copperidge thing. But I think when you're missing that dimension that Roberson brought at quarterback, that may have been a reason for the last 2 losses.
Now,
that's a guess, but
Brock Spack told us on our radio show in the preseason they were going to go with a cavalcade of guys at running back. They were going to use 4 to 5 guys. He's held firm with that, but his offensive line is not what it was in 2014 or even last year when they were unbeatable. And they fell way behind in this game at Indiana State last week and rallied in the fourth quarter to come up short. I'm just curious. This is not the team, obviously, that the Bison last saw in Frisco, or even Bison fans that watched last year when they made their run in the FCS playoffs where they got beat by Richmond. They still have some really talented pieces. Anthony Warren at wide receiver is that guy right there. And as I mentioned, it's the year of the wide receiver. He's another one. Averages 10 yards a carry or a catch. Had 2 touchdowns in the game against Indiana State. He is going to be a guy to watch on Saturday if Colby has time to throw the football.
Well, that's a good point because I watched that game against Indiana State in the second half, and I think there may be some holes in the offensive line. One of the big plays at the end of the game is when Indiana State defensive tackle or defensive end sliced through, forced a fumble. Another Indiana State teammate picked it up and iced the game. And you can't do that when you're a Missouri Valley team in those situations.
This is a curious team. I had them picked, I believe, number 3 in my preseason poll after NDSU and Northern Iowa. And this, I don't know if their season
is it for them.
if it's
close.
teetering, but it's really close. If they lose this game, that's 0-2 in the Valley. Granted, they're both road games, and they still get 4 more at home, but you do not want to be in an 0-2 hole to start conference play.
Especially, I think the Eastern Illinois loss is certainly looming there. That took the luster certainly off the Big Ten loss.
Right.
But, there's a lot of season to go. You can't say it's a must-win.
It's up there, though.
That's what I'm saying. It's close. I'm doing this. It's sort of half must-win, half not.
Now, NDSU enters Saturday's game. This is maybe the most remarkable of all the stats, the 33 wins in a row on the road, all the unbelievable road winning streaks. I look at 22 straight wins off a bye, and we bring it up every time, obviously, off a bye week. But how do you quantify that? And it goes back to probably what you just said of no resting on their laurels, but that's a remarkable stat.
Helps when you're good.
Yeah,
that's one thing.
That's
but
a
I
good
think
place
they
to
have
start.
I think they have the formula down. I think it goes back to even the Jim Kramer, what he does with them in the off week and the training. You go back to the playoffs. They have that formula between the semifinal title game where they won't tell you what they're doing specifically because they don't want anybody to know. And I don't think they'll want anybody. We asked him today about, what do you do in the off week? And he was sort of general.
Very cagey on that one.
Just doesn't want that the details out.
I don't blame him either, considering the formula has worked pretty well.
Craig Bolt started. They were really good under Craig in the off week, and whatever they've done,
they've carried it over here.
Absolutely.
You look at this week of games in the Valley. I X one already. Western Illinois at South Dakota State. I don't know if we would have said that a month ago. There'd be a massive game in Brookings, but South Dakota State off a loss in a bye week. And here comes Western, first-year head coach Charlie Fisher, unbeaten, a win over Eastern, a big one over Eastern Illinois. And then they pounded Northern Illinois. They had to hang on and beat the Huskies in that game in their FBS win. But, boy, they've been the surprise of the Valley to me. They've been unbelievable.
I watched that game, too. It's amazing.
You're all over it on a bye week, right?
Games. Western.
What do you make of Western?
Northern's down. Okay, Northern Illinois is definitely down. But Western, I thought, competed athletically with them. I thought they were pretty equal in the trenches with them. And their quarterback made some plays, much better than I figured they would be with a coaching transition.
It's really curious to see how that game plays out. SIU's at Northern Iowa. South Dakota at Youngstown State's an interesting one as well, considering the Coyotes think they should have won that game at UND. Maybe they should have won the game at New Mexico, where they sit on the season. Youngstown really hasn't played anybody yet. They had 2 fairly easy FCS wins, and then Missouri State at Indiana State, the other game going on Saturday. You look nationwide, though, Eastern Washington continues to flex its muscles. I think they're entrenched right now.
Look out for Cal Poly.
Yeah, and number 2, and I was just about to mention them. They go and beat Montana. I know that was a game that you were hoping to get a swing game in the pick 'em.
I didn't watch that one.
But Cal Poly, their only loss was in overtime to Nevada. They beat the Jacks on the road, and they beat the Grizz at home. Along with Eastern Washington, they're right in the mix, I think, for the Big Sky Championship. You're interested to see how that plays out.
They play UND, though.
They do. It's a biggie this week.
And UND's defense, you go back to Bubba in the 90s, it went to the 3-4-Y. To stop
the veer.
NDSU's veer
Stop
offense.
the veer.
So I think Bubba, this is no stranger for him. I think he gets it done. I think that
All right.
defense stops Cal Poly.
You're already
At
giving
least
us a pick
limited.
already? You're giving us a pick on a Monday?
Well, I'm losing my
You don't
rear
get
end
extra
on this
points
one.
for picking it on a Monday. I'm just warning you.
Are we going to get Spack back, by the way?
We should,
Yeah.
absolutely. We'll bring that out on Saturday.
Bring Burgundy?
It's an early kickoff, 1 o'clock. Join us for Kolpack and Izzo live from 9 to 11 on 970 WDAY. Our pregame show will follow that from the Tailgate Lodge to get ready for homecoming, North Dakota State and Illinois State. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest Bison Video Blog.